Rules. We'll cover everything you need to know to officiate in our program. If you got any questions along the way, feel free to stop me. This goes a lot easier when it's back and forth discussion than when I'm just straight talking for the entire time. So, jumping in, rules for our program. In order for our students to be able to play in our program, they have to have a UNCW ID. If they do not have a UNCW ID, they cannot play. If they leave their UNCW ID in their car, they have to go back and get it before they can check in. If they leave it in their dorm, they have to go back and get it before they can check in. If they leave it at their apartment 20 minutes away from campus, they have to go back and get it before they can check in. We do not let anybody play unless they show up with their UNCW 1 card. Likewise, they cannot play if they have a hat on, if they have jewelry on, or if they're not wearing closed-toed shoes. Most of those are easy to fix. With a hat, you take off your hat. With your jewelry, you take out your jewelry. With your closed-toed shoes, hopefully you borrow somebody else's or something, I don't know. But they have to have those 3 things taken care of in order to play.
Do we allow glasses, regular glasses?
Yep, glasses are okay. Yep, we don't force them to go get athletic goggles or anything like that. But I would advise them if they have contacts or something to go with that route, but if not, let them play.
Chains.
They cannot wear a chain. Nope. Nope. They have to take that off.
Earrings?
Yep, they got to take those out as well. Yep. Reason being, with a chain, if it's around your neck and somebody's going for a ball or something and their finger gets caught in it, I don't want to see any twisted fingers. Earrings, I don't want to see somebody fall to the ground and their ear hit the ground and then get stabbed in the side of the head. So, yep.
Facial piercing are the same?
Yep, same thing. Yep.
And no watch.
No watches for participants. You guys can wear them as officials, but yeah, the participants can't wear watches. The one exception to that is our medical alert bracelets, which you'll see every once in a while. They have to be taped down though. The reason we allow a medical alert bracelet is because if something were to happen to that person related to their medical condition, we have to know what is happening so we can respond to it accordingly. Everybody who has a medical alert bracelet is usually aware of how it has to be secured before they play a game. So they'll come to you maybe and ask for some tape to tape it down or something. You can go, or not you, you're an official, but they'll go to the supervisor and ask for it, and then the supervisor will let them tape it down or whatever, and they can wear that in a game. But regular bracelets, they cannot. Our players also have to wear athletic attire, so no jeans, no khaki shorts, no polo shirts. Well, actually, we probably let them do that, honestly, but usually anything not athletic, we do not allow on the field. And then all games are played up at our recreational field complex at the front of campus. So most of this you won't have to worry about. Our supervisors should catch this on the front end when they're checking into players, but if it gets past them and you catch it, tell them, hey, you got to go take care of this before I can let you on the field. So.
I know players are given like pennies to wear. Do they have, like for guys, do they have to wear a shirt under the pennies?
Yep, guys and girls have to wear a shirt under the pennies. It has to have sleeves, so we don't let them wear a tank top to try to keep as much bodily fluid off of our pennies as possible. We do wash them all, but we would prefer that we keep the infectious materials to a minimum. So each night, or each game you work, you'll get one of these. It's a scorecard. They're printed off in the office across the hall each morning and filled out, and your supervisor will have them to give to you. What you do with the scorecard is exactly like it sounds like. You keep track of the score and anything else that happens during the game on it, and at the end of the game you turn it back into the supervisor. This is kind of our way of double checking the scores. If the score sheet for whatever reason gets filled out improperly, we can go to the scorecard and see, okay, no, the scorecard matches the score sheet, so that must be the correct score, or there's a difference, let's figure out what happened. It's got the date, time, field. That should all be filled out in advance, as well as the team name and color. What you're responsible for is the score for each half, the final score, and the sportsmanship rating. We'll talk about sportsmanship rating a little later on. And then any unsportsmanlike conduct cards that you give out, so any yellow cards or red cards, you'll record on here. And then at the bottom you put your names as officials. That way we know who worked the game. So this year we've changed our soccer rules a little bit. The teams have been telling us, or our students have been telling us, that they want to play with more players on the field. So we're going to let them play with more players on the field. we're going from 7-on-7 up to 9v9. We're not changing the field dimension at all, so it's going to be the same size field, just more players on it. Teams can begin with as few as 6 players. In a co-rec game, we have some stipulations as to what that looks like for each gender, but they can start with as few as 6. If one team is starting with 6 or 7 or 8, the other team does not have to match them. They can play their full 9 still. And then when you're doing your pregame meeting with the 2 captains, you will do a coin toss or some other way to figure out who's going to start with the ball. The visiting captain gets to call the toss. On your scorecard, it'll tell you who's home and away, so you can use that.
Going back to like when it's a player, it's like it's 6-on-9. What if the other team chooses to also play 6-on-9?
They can choose to do that, yep.
So we have like no delegation on that?
Nope.
It's up to them.
Yep, so if the other captain says, hey, we've got 3 guys on the way, but we're starting with 6, do you guys want to start with 6 with us? And they agree to do it, then they'll play 6-on-6 until the other players get there. They can go up to 9-on-9. They can play 6-on-6 the entire time. But just kind of so you know, if they decide, no, we're going to play our full 9 still, they can play 9-on-6.
Okay.
Yep. It's a good question. All right, soccer rules. So we play 2 20-minute halves with a 5-minute halftime. And overtime is a 3-minute sudden death, which means that their first goal scored in overtime is the winner. If we're still tied at the end of overtime, we will go to a 5-person shootout. And then if we're still tied after that, a 1-person shootout. If you're not familiar with soccer and shootouts, each team alternates taking kicks from the penalty spot until we have a winner. Best of 5 would mean that whoever has the advantage after 5 shots wins. And then if you're still tied after that, whoever makes first and the other person misses, that's the winner. We don't have any ties in intramural soccer. We don't have any ties in intramural sports in general. So if you do any other sports for us, it'll be similar. We have a way of getting a winner out of every single game. So just know that if you don't remember the overtime policy, but your teams are tied, just know we don't have ties at the end of our game, so there must be something else coming next, and you can talk to your supervisor and figure out what that is. But these are what we're going with for our overtime rules. At the bottom here, we've got a mercy rule. So this is the important stuff to remember because this means you get to finish early. 15 or more goals with 5 minutes or less remaining. So that means Team A has got 20 goals and Team B has 3, and there's 5 minutes left on the clock, the game's over. That's only in the second half. If they put up 20 in the first half and the other team's only got 3, 1, that other team is really good or really bad, and 2, they've got to suffer through until we get to the mercy rule in the second half. So just know that. You won't see that one a lot. I don't think I've ever seen that, maybe once. This is the one you'll see more frequently, the 10 goals at 2 minutes remaining. And that doesn't have to be right at 2 minutes. It could be if you've got 45 seconds left to go in the game and that's when they score the 10th goal difference, then the game's over. So anytime they hit that after that time mark. Any questions about that? Okay. So we don't have a set number of substitutes. If you watch professional soccer, you'll see that they only get 3 changes a game, or if it's a friendly, sometimes they get up to like 5 or 7. We don't have that rule here. They can substitute as many times as they want. The stipulation is, just like high school soccer, there's only certain times they can do it. So they can't just run somebody out on the field whenever they want. They can sub between periods, which would be halftime. That's the only period we've got in soccer, so that's when they can sub there. They can sub on a goal kick, corner kick, or throw-in. So we don't set a standard as to they can't sub on their opposing team's corner kick or throw-in. As long as it is a throw-in, goal kick, or corner kick, they can sub. They can sub when a goal is scored, when an injured player is being attended to, and just note that if there's an injured player that we've stopped the game for and is being attended to, they have to sub off. There's no choice there. And then when a player is disqualified or ejected, that player has to leave the visual confines. They are allowed to sub that player out. They don't have to play a man down.
You do if even a new player starts?
They have to play down until at least the game restarts. If the injured player is fine to come back on, they can stand at the sideline. Once play restarts, your official can tell them that they're good to re-enter the field and they can just step on without stopping the game. Yeah. Any other questions? That was a good one. All right, so we're breaking into crews. This is something we instituted a couple years back and it's worked really well. So we'll kind of work together to get through this next part of training. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 4 iPads. All right, so we'll do crews of 5 and 4. So we'll count off to 5. All right, we'll start here.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4.
All right, 1s come up to this front corner, 2s here, 3s, 4s, and 5s in the back. Can you give me another iPad? Sorry.
These two.
Jarrett's getting me one more iPad, so he'll be right back.
Oh, appreciate it, man.
Oops. Yeah, go ahead. It wouldn't look good if I was sitting down while I was giving this presentation anyway. Can you give it to that group down there? All right, so you've got an iPad in front of you. It's got a sheet on it. Go ahead and fill out your crew number and put your names on it. Once we've done that, I'll go forward. Just kind of give me a thumbs up once everybody's got their name on there. Good. Good.
Are we allowed to start like filling things?
Do what?
Are we allowed to start doing this?
We're going to start working on that in a second. All right. So once you move on to the next page, you'll see that you've got a bunch of questions and terms that you're going to define. So we'll work through that. So go ahead and take a few minutes and kind of answer each of those questions with your group. If you need any help, let me know. But yeah.
So what? I just put
But we just know that they have to give a certain amount of distance to the kicking team. Offense must be on their side, except the person who's playing the ball. Because if they're playing it backwards, it's very difficult to try to maneuver your body from your side of the field and kick the ball backwards. So they can stand on the other side and play the ball backwards if they so choose. But that's the only person. And then all kickoffs are played on the trails whistle. We'll talk about trail and lead as we talk about positioning later on tonight. Basically, when you're officiating, you're either the lead official or you're the trail official. And those two titles shift throughout the game depending which way the ball is moving. It's exactly like it sounds like. The lead official is ahead of the ball and the trail official is trailing the play. So whichever direction the kickoff is not going, So if team A is on my side of the field, they're kicking off, they're going to score in team B's goal, I would blow the whistle because they're going away from me. It's kind of the best way to put it, but we'll get some graphics up on the screen a little bit later on so you can see that. Any questions about any of that? No. Can one of you hit the play on the video for me? Hopefully it plays. If it is a video, it might just be a picture. I don't know. Is it just a picture? Oh, okay. Oh, there is a circle out there. Okay, we do have circles. That's painted on, I believe. I don't believe that's inlaid on the grass, but maybe we paint them on. I'm not 100% sure. That might only be on field 1 or 2. We'll find out together when we go out there what we've got. But you can see that the blue team is going to be kicking off. It looks like they just got scored on if I was going to guess. Red team's moving back to their side. Blue team's going to be kicking off. And that's how it's all set up. Red team on that side, blue team on that side. There's the center circle in the middle. Any questions about that? No offside. I know a lot of people just asked me about that. We do not have offside. The 3 reasons that I know, and there might be more, but 3 reasons I know is our field is not regulation size, so it would be constant offsides or offside traps, and people getting beat by offsides and yelling at you that the player was offsides even though they weren't offsides. So for that reason, we don't do it. We don't do it because we only run a 2-person officiating crew. So trying to box the play in and get the fouls in the center of the field while also watching the offside on the back line of the defense becomes extremely difficult, and a lot gets missed in the center of the field. I said I do high school soccer. JV games in this region are officiated with two officials on the field, and JV coaches always yell at us because either we're not getting offsides or we're not getting the fouls, but it's really difficult to get both in that system. So that's the second reason we don't do it. And the third reason is just because of our students. A lot of them are just coming to play and have fun. They haven't necessarily played high-level soccer before, so they don't understand the rule. And it's difficult to convey that in an intramural setting where they can learn it, understand it, and have fun playing with that rule. So we just kind of remove it for them. This is out of bounds. So you can see the touch line, which anybody that's not familiar with soccer, the touch line is the out of bounds line. The reason it's called the touch line is when the ball crosses that line, you can touch the ball with your hands. That's why it's called the touch line. So if the ball is touching any part of the touch line, it is still in play. So the top ball is in play, the middle ball is in play, the bottom ball is the one that's out of bounds, and what it's called is in touch, which means you can touch it. So if you see any of those, just know that the ball being on the line, unlike American football or basketball, does not make the ball out of bounds. It's still in bounds and they can play it. That's why it's important that as officials you're staying on the line so that you can see those and call them appropriately. That plane extends all the way up to the sky, so if the ball is going out of bounds, somebody jumps and heads it back in, and it did not break the line completely, they still get to play it. All right?
So if the ball is touching anywhere on the touchline, even if it's on the very end, it's still in?
It's still in, yep. Any other questions? So just what I kind of just said, the caveat to this is the goal lines, which are at the end of the field where a goal is being scored, the ball also has to cross all the way across that line to be a goal or be out of bounds there. So if the ball's rolling into the goal and the goalie pins it on the line and it's still on the line, it's not a goal, he saved it. Once it gets all the way across, even if it doesn't hit the net, as long as it's all the way across the line, it's a goal. As long as it's within the posts, obviously. Just think anytime the ball is all the way over the line, that's what you got to worry about in soccer. If it's on the line, it's in play. This one should be a video. We'll see if videos are working. I'm concerned that they're not. Yeah, okay. Can you try to open this in regular PowerPoint?
You have to like download it first.
Oh, okay. This goes a lot better with videos because I don't have to try to explain things with words, I can show them. Is it gonna play in a PDF? We were semi-prepared today. It's okay. We were supposed to be up the fields, and we're just kind of winging this now at this point.
Well, in this time, I know a few of you are sand officials, so tomorrow you're all going to get whistles, but if you already have a whistle, bring your whistle and we'll let them out.
Good looking out. Yep. That doesn't look right. All right. All right, video. All right, so you all see he's dribbling to the sideline. He manages to stop the ball right on the line. Referee doesn't do anything. Ball's still in play. Okay? Any questions about that play? Okay. That's about as straightforward of an example as we could have gotten. It's perfect. Usually it doesn't happen where the ball stops on the line and then you're like, sure, out of bounds. And yeah, but. All right, so goalkeeper restrictions. What do we think we have for goalkeeper restrictions in our league?
Your box.
Can't come out of your box, okay? Can't use your hands outside of your box. They can come outside of their box. Just can't use your hands outside your box.
And 6 second rules.
All right,
The 6 second rule where you're supposed to.
6 second rule. We'll talk about that one.
Can't pick up a pass from your own teammate.
Can't pick up a pass from your own teammate. Played with which part of your body?
You can head it, but you can't, they can head it to you, but they can't kick it with their foot.
Correct. Yep. Anything else? All right, I think we got most of them. So inside their penalty area, that's what their box is called, is the penalty area. That's where they can use their hands. If they're outside their penalty area, they're essentially a field player. They're under the same restrictions as everybody else, and they can't use their hands. They have 6 seconds to get rid of the ball, whether it's a drop kick, punt, throw, or placing the ball at their own feet. We do allow punts in outdoor, correct? Yes. So they can punt the ball in outdoor. If you do indoor soccer for us in the spring, different rule, they cannot punt in indoor. But outside, there's more room, they get to punt the ball. They cannot handle a throw-in from their own team or a ball played back off of the feet from their own team. That would be an indirect kick where they picked it up at.
They can use their feet, right?
They can use their feet. They're basically another field player at all times. They're a member of the team. They get to play the game. The only difference is in certain situations they get to use their hands. And then there's certain situations where they're just a normal player and can't use their hands. Yep. You have a question? Okay. And then goalkeepers, this is the big one for ours. This is what you're going to see a lot. This will be a lot of your interactions with the goalies. Goalkeepers may dive for a ball, but they are not allowed to take players out by sliding. We have a no sliding policy in our game, and that extends to the goalkeepers as well. So the players in the field can't slide, the goalkeepers can't slide. And that's to protect players. Like I said earlier with the offside rule, a lot of our players that are coming to play haven't played soccer for a long time. Some of them have, some of them have not. Something you learn as a soccer player is you learn how to avoid a slide tackle. If you haven't played soccer, you haven't learned how to avoid a slide tackle, and therefore you can't get out of the way, and that's how we get people injured. So we take the slides out of our game all the way, so we don't have to worry about that. That's the best answer you can give to somebody if they ask you why they can't slide. It's a safety thing. They're going to come back and tell you, well, if I can't slide, then I'm actually in more danger, and then you're just going to tell them, well, if you'd like to talk to my boss, this is their office time. So, and then you send them into the office, they can talk with us.
Punting can't go past half. That's what it is. The first bounce, so it either has to touch somebody, yeah, has to touch somebody or touch their side of the half, I'm pretty sure. I believe that's, but we'll confirm that.
I know that's the rule for indoor on a throw.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about outdoor, so we'll have to check on that.
We'll check it, but I think that's what
If you want to go grab an iPad and pull up the rules on the iPad and see if you can find it. And we'll get that confirmed for you. Do you have any questions about the diving versus sliding?
Side to side.
Yeah. So the best way to kind of explain it is if the goalkeeper's going side to side and not going towards a player with momentum, then they're okay. If they're going towards a player with momentum, that's where we run into an issue. Talk to the goalkeepers about this early because it will be a thing you'll run into all season long. So the more you interact with them and communicate it early on, the more likely they are to get used to it and stop sliding or whatever.
So that includes when they're going in with their hands kind of on their side.
Yep.
Are they required to wear gloves?
They're not required to wear gloves. Nope. Nope. We don't require that of our goalies.
Are they allowed to choose, like, just in general between cleats or sneakers or just?
Yeah, so we do not require our participants to wear cleats. They just have to wear closed-toed shoes. So you'll have people that are out there playing in turf shoes, playing in tennis shoes, playing in cleats. You'll have a wide variance in that.
What about safety first? Like, do they have to stand and wait for the ball to come, or they can go get
They can go get the ball as long as they don't slide when they're going out. So if they go and they stay on their feet, then they're okay. They stayed on their feet, they didn't make a sliding challenge. But if as soon as they go to ground and they're sliding with that momentum, that's when we have an issue. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? We'll get into sliding more as we get further into this, but that's kind of just your initial brush on it right there. So, does anybody think there's an issue with what that goalie did? Raise your hand if you think he's slid with momentum. Raise your hand if you think he's okay. All right, most of us think he's okay. I think he's okay. I don't know how he missed the first ball, but he missed it, and then he's on the ground, and he's got no momentum at that point, so he can't be sliding with momentum if you don't have momentum. So he's just on the ground flailing for the ball. I don't have an issue with that. I would talk to him and remind him to keep his feet if possible, but in that situation, I don't think he was putting anybody at risk or anything there. So.
And as far as like the rules, whenever the goalkeeper's on the ground, I know like there's supposed to be a certain distance that you're supposed to be from the goalkeeper if you're actually like kicking with momentum like the goal was.
Play again.
Like only has into and foul.
Yeah, so the rule is usually based off of possession. So once the goalie possesses the ball, it's their ball, and you have to let them have it. He doesn't have possession there, so that's a free ball to be played. But as soon as you deem that goalie's got possession, you've got to protect him because there will be players kicking in there. So if you notice, say he doesn't miss that first ball, and then everybody's still coming in at him, and there's kicking, you can blow your whistle, and you can kill that play there, and just say, keeper's got it, we're coming out the back, and then you'll let the keeper play it out the back. It'll get everybody off of the goalie in that situation. Now we got another one. What did he do there? He is extremely far outside of his penalty area. Yeah. So, and then we call it, and then he's frustrated, but that's the right call. So, all right, throw-ins. Who wants to take a crack at throw-ins for me?
Get fully past your head.
All right, all the way back.
Feet on the ground.
Feet on the ground. Anything else?
Just stay above the line.
Just stay beyond the line. That's kind of the key one right there. Yeah, 2 hands on the ball. Yep. So players must use both hands equally to come over the top of the head and have both feet on the ground at the time of the throw. If the ball does not go inbounds, the throw will be replayed. If it happens a second time, it's a turnover. So this is a difference from high school. In high school, we are automatically turning the ball over if they don't throw it inbounds. In our game, we give them a redo because it happens. It's intramurals. So you won't see it a lot, but the most likely chance you'll see it is somebody goes to throw the ball. One of the late games, the ball gets wet. They go back here, they come forward, and the ball slips out of their hands behind them. It never came in bounds. Let them pick it up and rethrow it at that point. But if it happens twice, turnover, the other team gets it. Does anybody have any questions about throw-ins? No? Okay. Corner kicks. Who wants to define corner kicks for me?
It's kicked from the side of the ball goes out.
It's kicked from the side, the ball goes out.
It's gotta be anywhere.
It goes out on the goal line, right?
The ball can be anywhere in or on the whole.
In the corner arc.
Yeah, arch.
Yep.
Doesn't the like opposite team have to be like a certain amount of feet away from the person
Yep.
taking the corner?
Yep. Do you know what the distance is?
15, 20?
I think it's like 10.
10 yards. 10 yards is the magic number in soccer. Everything is 10 yards. Yep. Anything else for corner kicks? Who gets to kick the corner kick? The defending team or the attacking team? This is the biggest confusing part, the attacking team. We'll get people who think that the defending team gets the corner kick and the attacking team gets the goal kicks because you're trying to score a goal, so terminology would indicate, oh, goal kick must be good for the attackers. But it's not. So corner kick must be taken in the that should be corner circle. It was supposed to be quarter circle. Okay, that's interesting wording. But must be taken in the quarter circle in the corner, and the opposing team must be 10 yards back at the time of kick. I believe we have hashes on the end lines that'll show you where 10 yards are. If not, just 10 paces, we'll walk it off for you. If you don't know, an adult human's gait is usually about a yard. So that's kind of how we walk off our distances in soccer. But you have a question?
Yeah, if they take too long to, let's say like they wait for it, is there like a certain time that they have?
They don't have a time necessarily. If they are dilly-dallying because they're winning and you can tell they're trying to delay the game, then you can get into managing that however you need to, telling them to hurry up, giving yellow card for delay game, whatever. But we'll get to kind of that aspect of officiating later on. Yep. And then goal kicks. What's a goal kick? Anybody?
When the defending team takes the ball to the goal
And
line.
then the attacking team kicks it over the line, and then the defending team kicks it from the goal.
Yep, so attacking team kicks it over the line, defending team kicks it out, and they get to play it from the back. So it must be taken behind the 6-yard box. It can also be on the corner of the 6-yard box, which is where you'll see most teams place the ball. It does not have to be on the corner though. As long as it's anywhere within the 6-yard box, they are allowed to kick it from there. The ball has to be stopped inside the 6-yard box. It cannot be rolling. That's the biggest thing that'll get teams in trouble when they're trying to take a quick free kick. 1 second, I'll get you. And if the ball does not clear the penalty box, it gets to be re-kicked, okay?
I was gonna ask, do we play the rule where you can't touch it until it comes out of the box?
We do play that rule. High school, from my understanding, no longer plays that rule, but we do play that rule still. So if anybody asks you, yes, it has to come outside the box. So this is a throw-in. Yellow's throwing it in. What did he do wrong? So what did he do wrong? He did a nice little bunny hop. Contrary to popular belief, if your feet aren't on the ground, you actually don't have as much power to throw the ball in. So you're actually putting yourself at a disadvantage. But it was the strategy he went with, and he got whistled for it. Another throw in. That one was quick up at the top. You see our referee called it.
So then it's a turnover.
Yep. So the only time they get to rethrow it is if they somehow the ball doesn't come in bounds. If they have an infraction like this, they get to, that's a turnover. Everybody sees what he did. His hands have to come all the way back over his head. You will see this all of the time where they come right here and they throw it, because a lot of times if they've played soccer for a long time, they get away with that. We're going to try to not let them get away with it here. This one is a throw-in. He's on the far side.
He wasn't using both hands.
Yeah, he was not using both hands equally. So watch as he comes around here. He comes from here as he throws it in. So if you all are on the field, his body is facing the field, and then he decides he wants to throw it this way, so he decides to do this number. He cannot do that. You have to come with both hands equally over your head. So if he wants to throw that way, he's got to turn his body and make that throw. Okay? Any questions about that?
With the penalty kicks, if it doesn't come out, or not like the goal kick.
Go, yeah.
If it doesn't come out of the penalty box, you let them try again.
Yep.
But then after the second time, if it doesn't go out,
I would tell them to have somebody else kick the ball. I don't actually know. I'd have to figure out. My guess from a high school officiating standpoint is it'd be an indirect kick for the other team inside the box. I don't think we cover that, so I would just let them re-kick and tell them if somebody hasn't gotten it out twice in a row, somebody else needs to kick the ball. Somebody on that team can get it out of the box, just find whoever it is that can do it and have them get it out. Direct kicks. Who wants to take a crack at that one?
So whenever there's a penalty, if people overly stand front, is that right?
Yes on the penalty part, but not quite after that.
You can, if the team awarded the penalty, you can make a direct play on the goal.
That's it. So, direct kick is exactly like it sounds like. It means you can score a goal directly off of the kick that you've got. So, it's whenever you get fouled, the attacking team will get a kick. How am I doing on time, Jarrett?
7:45.
Okay. Whenever you're fouled, you'll get a kick. Most all of our fouls in intramural soccer are direct kicks. It's a free kick, which means the other team cannot contest you. They have to be 10 yards back, in which nobody else has to touch the ball except for the kicker for a goal to count. The defensive team has to be 10 yards back from the ball, like I said. Compare that to an indirect kick. What do we think an indirect kick is?
It has to touch somebody else.
Has to touch somebody else before it can be scored. You cannot score a goal directly off the kick. Free kicks in which another player must touch the ball besides the one taking the kick before the ball can enter the goal. Defensive team must be 10 yards back on this type of kick as well. What do we think we do if the ball enters the goal but was not touched by another player? Goal kick. Because it's still a goal line, it counts as going out of bounds instead of a goal, so the other team gets a goal kick. Any questions about those?
How do you choose which one to give out?
With these. Good question. We've got ING fouls versus ION fouls. Most of the time, your fouls on this list are direct free kicks. These are all INGs. So if you kick an opponent, if you spit on an opponent, I really hope you don't have to deal with that, but if you do, there's other paperwork we need to do at that point. Tell your supervisor that somebody spit on somebody else. If you trip an opponent, if you jump at an opponent, some of these are worded weird, but if we have videos of them, they'll make more sense. So jumping at an opponent would be the other players in the air going for a header or something. You jump into them instead of going vertically up into your plane. Charging into an opponent, that one's kind of what it sounds like. Striking or attempts to strike an opponent, once again, please tell your supervisor because we've got some stuff we've got to take care of at that point. Tackling an opponent usually does not mean the football form of tackling, it just means soccer tackling, which just means you basically tripped them. If they're football tackling, please tell your supervisor we've got something to take care of. Pushing an opponent, handling with intent, or holding an opponent. Handling is the technical term for a handball, in case anybody was curious. Can't use your hands in soccer. If you do, it's handling. All of those are direct kicks. I think we talk about indirect kicks later on, but if we don't, you're looking at things with the ION. So your obstruction, obstruction would probably be the one we would have in intramural soccer. Injuries, if you have to stop the play for an injury, that would be an indirect kick. We don't do drop balls in intramurals, so that would be an indirect kick if you're doing an injury stoppage. Any other miscellaneous stoppage that isn't a foul would be an indirect kick.
I think an example would be when the goalie does like pick it up with their hand.
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, so that's the one that you'll have a handling infraction. When the goalie picks the ball up directly from their teammate's foot, that's technically a handling infraction. It's a handball, but in that instance, it's an indirect kick. It's not a direct kick on goal. That's the one instance where handling is not a direct kick.
I noticed the player not wearing shin guards.
We do not require them to wear shin guards. We encourage them to, but we do not require them to. Any other questions? I'll play this. All right. So this will play through. He probably got fouled there, and then finally got pushed down right there. But that would be a running into your opponent version of a tackle or whatever. So that'd be a direct kick from that spot. Any questions about why that is a foul or anything?
No, I just want to ask about something.
Yep.
Are they allowed to wear like longer tights?
To wear what?
Longer tights.
Yeah, they can. Players can, officials cannot, but the players can, yes. Any questions about that foul? Why it's a foul? We try to pick really clear ones so they're really obvious, but. All right, we've got this one. Again, there's a couple in here that you could get. He takes the ball cleanly, he gets tripped, and then he gets pushed. So if you want to take your pick on any of those fouls, those are direct kicks. What?
Is that girl holding in that moment?
Holding? She might have been holding. I can't tell from this angle if she was or not, but she might have been. There's an example of a good throw-in. Who saw that one? Handball, handball. So, yes, it hits his hand. It hits both of their hands. I don't know if I'm calling that one because we'll talk about handling more in a second, I believe. But handling in and of itself has three components to it. There's a time, there's a distance, and there's an intent. So you have to think, how much time did the player have to react to the ball? How much distance was between the player and the ball at the time when it was played? And then what was the intent? Was there intent to handle the ball? So those are kind of what you're thinking about during a handball. That's one you could probably let go, but it does hit their hand. So nobody's going to complain about you calling it usually. This is one they don't call that I probably would have. Anybody want to take a crack at why I'm calling that one but not the other one? So her hands aren't in a natural position. There's another reason though. It's bigger than this one. Where does the ball go after it hits her hand? Straight down back to her feet, and she gets to keep going. So because it gives her an advantage and she was the one that played it with her hand, I'm calling that one back and giving it to the other team. But they happen fast like this. This is one pops up, hits her hand. The referees might not even know if it hit her hand or hit her shoulder or what happened. So this is kind of how fast it happens and what you're kind of looking for. Any questions about that? Do we see it? It'll play back again. Watch the back leg. Yep. That was definitely intentional. She got beat. She knew she got beat, and she took her down. Or took him down. I can't tell. That's him. Took him down. So those are the obvious ones. Those are the easy ones to get. That's tripping. That might be a yellow card, but we'll talk about cards and stuff later on. But any questions about tripping? Are you serious? Yes, we are serious. You tripped him. He goes through the player's hip. So you can see that the player's hip is to him, between him and the ball. He goes through the player to get that. That's why that's a foul. He took that cleanly. It looks like he got run out of bounds, but running somebody out of bounds isn't a foul. He might be pulling on his arm. If there's something there, it's probably a pull on the arm. I can't really tell from this angle. Most of that looks clean to me, but this one's in here, I think, more of the don't let the players call your game for you. He stops playing on the ball. I don't know if it went out of bounds or not, but he stops playing on the ball, it looks like, because he thinks he's being fouled, so he's trying to get the official to call the foul for him. So maybe his arm was pulled, maybe it wasn't, but don't let the players dictate what you're calling. Call what you see. It's the best way to go with that. Now moving into indirect kicks, which I thought we'd come back to, and we do. These are more of your ION plays, even though, oh yeah, there's a couple IONs up there. Dangerous plays, those don't have an ION, and most of the time they're going to be just regular direct fouls anyway because they'll end in ing. But if there's a dangerous play and a player gets hurt or something like that and you have to stop the game, you'll move to an indirect kick to restart. Obstruction, which I talked about, that's very difficult for even experienced officials to call, so it's something that you'll kind of learn as you get into officiating. Basically, obstruction is, the best way to put this is impeding the progress of your opponent without making an attempt to play the ball. So ball is rolling down the field, your opponent's got you beat, they're faster than you, and you just step into them. You don't necessarily foul them, you don't knock them down, but you just stop their momentum so they can't get around you and get to the ball. You played them and not the ball, and that's obstruction. That's an indirect kick. Caution players, so if you have to stop the game to caution a player, give them a yellow card for any reason whatsoever. Indirect kick from there, unless you're cautioning them as the result of an ing foul. So if they trip somebody and you're giving them the yellow card, it's a direct kick. A player touching the ball a second time before the ball has been played by another player on a kickoff, throw-in, free kick, corner kick, or a penalty kick. So that's a lot of verbiage to say on a dead ball. The person who kicks the ball to restart play cannot be the second person to touch the ball. It has to touch another player before they can touch it again. Off that note, when you're enforcing an indirect kick, your hand is up. And the reason your hand is up is so that when the ball is kicked by the player that's kicking it, until it touches a second player, your hand does not drop. That way they know the ball has not been touched a second time, I can't touch the ball yet. If they're cognizant enough to look at you, they'll know that. Most of the time they won't be, but at least your hand is up, so when they touch it a second time and you whistle them for it, you can just stand there with your arm up and say, nobody's touched it yet, you can't touch it again. Once it's touched a second time, you just drop the hand down to your side and you keep going. And then the last one, we already said, but the ball played back to the goalie from his own teammate, should be his or her own teammate, will result in an indirect kick from the spot where the goalie picks the ball up. That could be right in front of the goal. It could be on the edge of the box. The caveat is you cannot have an indirect free kick inside of the 6-yard box. The 6-yard box is the retainer. Any kick inside the 6-yard box, or any infraction that occurs inside the 6-yard box, the ball is placed on the line of the 6-yard box, and that is where the kick comes from. They can't be any closer than 6 yards to the goal to take an indirect kick. Questions? You won't ever see that. If you do, I will be shocked.
Players can line up on the line.
In that instance, they do not have to be 10 yards back. They can stand on the goal line. So you will see how many players? We got 10 players on the field for the defense. You will see all 10 of them on the goal line trying to block the goal. You will not ever see that, I promise. If you do, I don't know. I've seen that twice, and I've officiated at high school level, so. This would be a dangerous play foul. They slide, so that's a yellow card. They slid without contact. I don't know how you don't make contact from that range, but they didn't, so that's a yellow card. All right, advantage versus disadvantage. Just like obstruction, this is something that's sometimes difficult for new officials to pick up on, but something that's integral to soccer. Don't worry if it's not clicking when you first start, because it takes a while for advantage and disadvantage to kind of take root in your mind as you're officiating. Because your initial instinct when you start officiating is, that's a slide tackle, I've got to call it. That's a trip, I've got to call it. What you're looking for when you go to advantage versus disadvantage, does anybody want to tell me kind of what that is?
Is an advantage when like a foul is committed, but it's not like a terrible one, and the team that the foul was committed upon still has the ball as they continue to goal scoring opportunities, so the stop play would be disadvantaged to them.
Yes. You don't want to penalize the team that was fouled, if that makes sense. So it doesn't even, I would even take out the part where he said a terrible foul. Any foul committed, but the advantage still goes to the attackers and they're still working towards goal, try to let that play go and see if it develops. If it develops into a goal scoring opportunity, they got a chance to get a goal even though their other player was fouled. If it doesn't, after a couple seconds, you can call it back to the spot and give them the foul that they had inflicted on them.
That doesn't apply to sliding, correct? Because we just saw that.
It should apply to sliding as well.
Because how was that not
Because advantage, I'm trying to go back so this will play again. The reason this is an advantage is because advantage is a discretionary call at the discretion of the referee. So this could have been advantage, but the referee decided it wasn't, and so they called it.
How much time, like after you see like a foul, do you
Good question.
give until like you call it back?
It varies. On here we say a few seconds. How I do it in my head is I give them usually one good pass or two kind of knock around passes, or I'll give them 2 or 3 dribbles. If that's kind of how I measure the time in my head. That way I don't have to count seconds. I can just be like, he got fouled there, 22 made a pass to 18, 18 made a pass to 17, we're good to keep playing, that's their advantage. Or I'll say, he got fouled there, ball rolled to 12, 12 dribbled into the box, they had a shot. I'll also give them 1 shot, will kind of count as negating the advantage. If they get a shot, I say, yeah, you got fouled, but you got a shot off, so I'm giving the shot. It says a few seconds, that varies in every situation.
I'm trying to remember how this works. So if there's a foul that is like bad enough for a yellow card or a red card or something that happens, and then you play the advantage and the team like scores or something, can you come back to that?
Absolutely, absolutely. And what I do in that situation, because my memory is terrible and I will absolutely forget, if I see a foul that I don't like and I'm going to come back into and give a yellow card, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say 14, I'm coming back. And then I'm going to run away from him. I'm going to point at him. I'm going to make sure everybody knows I'm coming back to 14. It's kind of embarrassing, but I'm not going to forget. And if I forget, the other team's not going to let me forget that I told 14 I was coming back to them. That way, they know they're playing. That I saw that. I'm playing the advantage, and I'm going to deal with it later, so they don't get upset about it.
Since there's no official on the sides, how do we determine the precise place where when there's a foul, the kick is going to come?
So with our 2-man system or 2 official system, and we'll cover this a little bit later on, you kind of are the sides. You're not both in the center of the field, so we don't have anybody in the center, and the 2 officials are off to the side on either side of the field, so they can kind of maintain that. So they kind of do the job of the assistant referee and the center referee at the same time. We've just taken away the offsides responsibility, so they're not caught up trying to look for that at the same time. Yeah, good questions. Anything else? All right, so advantage is a discretionary call, like I said. If you don't know, call the foul, because the foul is absolutely there. You saw that part. So if you don't know if it's an advantage, it probably isn't. It might not be, but don't miss the foul because you're not sure if it's an advantage or not. If a foul is committed and the offended team still maintains advantage, allow play to continue. Give play a few seconds to develop. If nothing develops, then call the foul and bring play back. On this note, we'll talk about this tomorrow with mechanics when we're out on the field. This is going to be loud and I apologize. When you're giving an advantage, everybody needs to know on the field that you're giving an advantage. So your arms are going to be up here, high, and you're going to yell, you're either going to yell, play, or you're going to yell, advantage. So everybody knows on that field, there's no mistaking that you saw it and you're playing the ball. That way everybody knows we're still going. Slide tackling. We have no slide tackling policy in our intramural sport, like I said earlier. If a player slides from the front or side and does not make contact with the opponent, then it's a yellow card. That's their warning. That's their get out of jail free card. After that, we are very strict with them about what they can and cannot do. If a player slides from the front or sides and makes contact with the opponent, it's a straight red card. If a player slides from behind, regardless of if contact is made, it's a straight red card. If the goalkeeper, the goalkeeper has the same restrictions when diving that the field players have, that we talked about that earlier. So their warning shot is from the front or side with no contact, and even then it's a yellow card. Anything else, see ya. Okay? Any questions? We get to watch some. Takes out his own teammate. I'm not going to count contact with his own teammate as contact. So I'm giving him a yellow. That is Alex giving the card. We'll talk about giving cards later. But yeah, doesn't make contact with the attacking player. Attacking player continues on, takes out his own teammate. I'm giving him a yellow card for that one. I think Alex gave him a red. I would not have done that, but happens fast. Slide tackling, play. Please play. Somebody wanna? Thank you.
Oh, why would you call it that?
So back to advantage and disadvantage. Yes, the player slid, 100% slid. Didn't take down the player he slid, didn't make contact with the player he slid at, and the player he slid at was the one that still had the advantage. If you see that, try to let that go. You'll probably be whistle happy at first. You'll be, that's a slide tackle, I've got to get this kid. We can get him later. Let's see what the player can do with the ball in that instance. All right? Any questions about that? Yeah, can you replay that? Now I can understand, because Jessica, if you play this again, watch where the referee is looking. He sees this ball roll to the middle of the field and he sees it die. There's nobody looking to play this ball. But then it does get played and it springs 10. That play looked dead when the ball rolled in the middle of the field. So I can see why he played that, or he called that back. But then you see where it goes from there, so allowing that 1 extra second, and he probably gives that advantage in that situation. Any other questions? Slide, no slide, what do we think? All right, if we think it's a slide, raise our hand. Yeah. It would be on yellow is who I'd be looking at here. All right. Raise our hand if we've got a slide. A few of us. Raise our hand if we don't have a slide. More of us. This one's iffy. The referee lets it go. I'm probably calling a slide there. He didn't go all the way through the player, and it looked like he tried to stop, but you could see he was going to ground, and he took out the ankle of the other player. If you're not giving a slide, at least give a trip here, because he did trip him. But this one, if you gave a card for a slide, I would back you up on it.
Because it looks like green and yellow both.
So watch how green gets to where he gets. Green is up. He's off balance, but he doesn't end up on the ground until after he's hit by yellow. Yeah. See?
Would the green get the trip?
No, yellow would get the trip.
Green had his left foot planted.
Yeah. And he would say, the yellow player would say in his defense, I got the ball, and I would tell him I don't care. You got the player. So that's one thing soccer players think they can get away with. I got the ball first. Fantastic. That doesn't mean you didn't foul him after you played the ball. There can absolutely be a foul after the ball has left the play. So just something to be aware of, because you will hear that a lot from soccer players. I got the ball first. Good for you. And then you kicked him. So any more questions about those? Okay. So administering cards, you saw some cards being given out in those videos. Some of them well, some of them not so well. Whenever you're giving a yellow card, make sure the player that's receiving the card knows he or she is getting booked. If you watch the EPL or La Liga or Serie A or any of these other professional leagues, and you see the referee giving a card with the player's back to him walking away, yes, that professional player knows he's getting that card. We do not do that here. The player has to be looking at you and acknowledging that they're getting the card, because there will be times where you'll think, oh, he knows he knows he's getting the card. He saw me take it out of his pocket. He's just walking away. No, he does not know he's getting that card. And then when he gets his second card and gets his red card, he'll be like, wait, when did I get my first card? And he'll be like, 20 minutes ago. And then you got a mess to deal with. Make sure if you're giving a card, the player receiving it knows they're getting the card, that they see you give them the card. That being said, for clarification, because sometimes you run into this, do not physically give the player the card. You just hold it up, and they know they've got a card. It's not a Christmas gift. You are not giving them the card. Yes.
Players have numbers on their.
Their pennies will have numbers on them. Yep. During this period where you're administering a card, either team can sub, and the restart comes on your whistle. Do not let them dictate when you're starting play. Write everything down. Restart it when you're ready. You don't have to be in a rush. All right? We don't stop the clock. It runs. If you're giving a card, that's less time you have to officiate. I'm not saying milk it, but I'm not telling you to run and hurry either. Okay? Make sure the other thing when you're giving a card that it's high. Don't have it down here. I'm small. If I'm giving a card here, it's likely in somebody's face. They're going to be very upset about that, and then I'm going to get hit. So, high, out of their face. A few yards away from them is good as well. But make sure it's high so everybody can see it. Red card, this player is ejected. The team may replace this player. So if they have enough subs on the sideline, they do not have to play down. They are allowed to play full strength the entire game, even if they have a player ejected. The player ejected cannot sub back into the game, obviously, but the ejected player has to leave the field. Our supervisor will deal with that. When you eject a player, make sure you tell them so they can come take care of it. We don't expect you to escort the player from the facility. You're officiating the game. You don't get paid enough to do that. Our supervisors get paid $1.25 more than you do, so they do get paid enough to do it. And they will do it with smiles on their faces most of the time. Just notify a supervisor before you restart the game so we can take care of that. Any questions about cards? What? Nothing? No. Administering cards, this is me when I was an undergrad, like a sophomore. Don't do what I did. I'm way too close to this kid. I also officiated a high level, so I can do this.
Well, that's the same thing that Trent.
Probably was, yeah. A lot of our people in these videos are repeat offenders if you don't pick up on that. But all right. So I'll play that back through. So who wants to tell me what happened, what I did right, what I did wrong? Because I did things right and things wrong.
The guy in green.
The guy in green should have gotten the card. Should have called that first.
Yeah, attention.
I absolutely would agree with that. Do we know why one got the red card? You hear the saying in sports, the officials don't catch what started it, they catch the retaliation. I'm guilty, I caught the retaliation. I wish this would just keep playing on a loop. So yes, green pushes her. That should have been a foul. I didn't see it. The downfall of our two-man system is that ball rolls into the corner and my eyesight goes with the ball into the corner. I'm watching that play as it goes. I don't see what happens behind my back. There's a push. Backstory, the girl that got pushed, the guy that came in to her defense like her shining knight, that was her boyfriend. So, boyfriend came into her defense, boyfriend gets ejected because you cannot grab other players around the shoulder and neck area. That is very violent, and we do not allow that.
What happens when the two referees have different calls?
What was that?
What happens when the two referees have different calls?
Get together and talk about it. Get to one mutual decision.
You still listen?
Yeah, I mean, you're a team out there, so if you call something and your partner has something different, talk about it, get to the right call. Do you see something in here?
No, for example, if the other one saw the push,
Right.
he would have touched you before you ended in the red card.
That player's getting ejected anyway. I'm 100% ejecting him regardless. He retaliated in a way he should not have retaliated, so he's getting ejected, so that's not coming off. But if the other referee, I don't know who my partner was, this was 5 years ago. If the other referee had seen the initial push that I missed and said, hey, did you see that so-and-so pushed, and that's why this player came screaming in to retaliate like that, I would have said, no, I didn't see that. They would go and give that card to the other player. I didn't see it, I'm not giving that card, because I didn't see it. But if they're confident that that's a yellow card that the player pushed, I'm going to tell them, find the player that did it, administer that yellow card, and they'll take it from there. Yeah, you're a team, back each other up. The other thing I did, correct by high school standards but incorrect by our standards, is I administered this card in the middle of this scrum. The reason I did it is I was stopping a fight. We don't pay you enough to stop a fight, so don't. But look, you see the green player? As soon as the green player that was coming in saw me with the red card in the air, he's clapping and he's backing away. So I diffused the green team from getting any further into that with the red card. I don't expect you to do that. If they start fighting, step back and take numbers. Just write numbers on your scorecard. You get to tell me who threw first punch, who threw second punch, and everything. So don't get in the middle of the scrum like I do there. That's what I'm taught to do at a higher level of officiating, so that's what I did. But
So a question about the numbers on the pennies. Let's say this guy's sneaky and he like switches pennies. Do they have the same pennies? Or like, I'm trying to say, is there a way that they switch pennies and they can get away with it that way?
they shouldn't, because once they get ejected, our supervisor should be with them filling out an ejection report and then escorting them out of the facility. So they should never be unattended to be able to do that. If it happens and you catch it, stop the game, tell the supervisor, because then he's not only ejected, he's not only getting escorted out of the facility, he is then going to have some additional repercussions to deal with. So.
Sometimes they'll switch goalies mid-game, and a lot of times they'll just give the player coming off the field going in goal, just hand the penny. They have to have their individual penny, so we know who they are.
Yeah, when they come in to sign in for a soccer game, we have a sheet at the sign-in window that's got everybody's name on it. We've got an empty row of, or column of boxes next to their name. We write their number as they sign in. So everybody's got a number assigned to them for that game. So that's how we can kind of go back and check. All right, 24 did this. Who was 24? Go to the score sheet. We've got their name. We got their 850. We can figure out who it is. So try not to let them switch jerseys, even if they're trying to quickly change goalies like that.
They get a red card, do they play the next game?
They have to meet with Danny, Andy, Zach, or myself, and we will tell them how long they are suspended for. If it's not a bad thing that they did, typically one game. It can range up to life, depending on how they treat the situation. So
will we have, unlike the list, would say this person is, they got a red card and can't play, or they're suspended or something?
So you won't really ever have to deal with that. You'll give the cards. After that, just say you've got to meet with my supervisor before. I don't have any information to tell you. Our supervisors that are checking players into play, there will be a note on the score sheet. On their name, it'll say SUSP next to it in parentheses, and their name will be crossed through. That means they're suspended. On the bottom, there will be a note telling the supervisors what they're suspended for and the date that their suspension expires. So we've got a few fail-safes built into the system, so our supervisors can make sure people aren't playing who aren't supposed to be. That's a good question. Any other questions? Cool. Correct differences. So correct plays 9 players, just like men's and women's do. 5 players of one gender, 4 players of the other gender. The goalkeeper can be either. So you could have 5 males on the field and 3 females in the field and a female in goal. There's a +2 difference on the field, but that's okay. In the past that wouldn't have been. We're letting that go this year. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. Vice versa, 5 females on the field, 3 males on the field, and a male in goal. Now they could do 4 males, and then, or 4 males, 4 females, and then the goalie, whichever gender is the 5th, but we're not forcing them to do that. If starting the game with less than 9 players, teams must have a minimum of 6 with no more than 5 of one gender and no less than 2 of the other. So they can start 4 and 2, they can start 5 and 2, but they can't start 6 and 2 to get 8. They would have to be 5 and 3 to get 8, or be up to full strength 5 and 4.
What's the, how many people are there in team in a regular team?
Wait, what was that? Sorry.
How many people are in a regular team? So there's not.
There's no limit.
There's no limit.
They can sign. There's a team signed up right now for co-rec soccer that has 20 people on their roster. They can have as many people as they want. They are playing two 20-minute halves a night. So I don't know how they're going to sub in 20 different players. But we don't limit it because your students first, you have classes, you have other clubs that you participate in, you might work a job. So we don't put a limit on how many people they can put on a team. I'd wager all 20 of those players are not showing up every night. And that's why they have that many players on the roster, because they know we're going to need a lot of players so we can play each and every night at full strength. They can't play more than 9 on the field. That's basically all you've got to worry about. If we get to the end of the game, we have got a penalty shootout. They'll choose 5 players to shoot. They must alternate gender. So that's kind of the caveat for co-rec. If a second shootout is needed, instead of doing 1 shooter until we've got a winner, we're doing another 5. And we're going all the way through again, alternating genders. To keep it as fair as possible, that we've got the same number of gender kickers for both teams. They must alternate gender and they can be the same shooter as the first time. So they can use the same 5 shooters in the next round. They don't have to go through their entire roster before you can kick again. That's a difference that we have to our game that you'll see different elsewhere, but you don't have to worry about that. Do you have a question?
Yeah, just make sure in a regular game, if they do the first shot this time, can the same player do the only one? So.
Yep. We don't force them to go through their entire roster because situation with the team that's got 20 players, you're going to get to player number 20, and the other team's going to have kicked through their entire team 3 times by then. So we don't force them to do that. They can just, their first 5 shooters have to be different, but once they get past their first 5, they can reuse as many times as they want. Yep. Good question. Sportsmanship. This is something that you all are responsible for on a nightly basis. Our supervisors don't decide this, you do. So you're the one on the field, you're interacting with the teams, you're going to tell us how they behaved during the game. You'll give a sportsmanship rating to both teams. We do it on a scale from 1 to 5. 1 is the lowest, 5 is the best. You probably won't ever give a 1. That means they were absolutely terrible. You had to call the game early. You could not officiate them. They would not listen to anything. Absolutely terrible. 5 means they were perfect angels. They were complimenting your calls even when they weren't going their way. They were, I don't know, shaking your hand. They were absolute angels for you. You probably won't give a 5. You probably won't give a 1. You'll give 2s, 3s, and 4s. Anything lower than a 3 needs documentation. So if you give a 2 or a 1, you have to fill out a report as to why you gave a 2 or a 1. And we need as much information as possible because a team who averages below a 3 in sportsmanship rating is not eligible to go to playoffs. So sportsmanship rating does matter. It is important, regardless of what some teams may think. We do track it. So if you have any questions about what you should give, talk to your supervisor. Most of them have officiated before. They kind of know where a team might lie on the sportsmanship scale. So after every game, you'll give your scorecard back to the supervisor with it completely filled out with a sportsmanship rating on it, and do the sportsmanship rating right after the game so you don't forget anything.
The majority of your games will have, or the majority of your teams will be 3s. Mm-hmm. I would say you'll have a few 2s. You may rarely have a 1, but in almost every game you have be a 3 or a 4.
Yeah. So this is a scale kind of written out for you all so you get a rough idea. 5, team did not argue any calls and were perfect sports. 4, team may have argued about a few calls, but they were respectful towards the officiating crew and the opposing team. It's important. They were respectful towards the opposing team as well as you all. They can't thank you and then go curse out the other team. That does not count. 3, team argued about several calls, and that's the wrong there, but there may have been 1 or 2 yellow cards given. If you're giving cards, you're probably not giving a 4 at that point. Because if you've got disciplinary cards against you, you did more than argue a few calls. 2, team argued several calls, more than 2 yellow cards were given, or a red card was given, and at that point we need documentation from you all as to why you gave a 2, what the cards were, why they happened, whatever else might have happened. And then one, team had no control. Several yellow or red cards were given. Need documentation. If you have to end a game early, which I hope you never have to do, but if it happens, that's a 1 territory. If you just absolutely cannot finish the game because the team cannot behave, that's a 1. Any questions about sportsmanship? All right. The thing I hate most about being an official is conflict. Believe it or not, you can officiate sports and hate conflict, because I do. Danny does. So we're going to try to teach you how to handle it as best as we can. You won't be perfect the first time. You might be like my brother and you love it, and that's why he's getting a law enforcement degree. But yeah, so first thing is know what the player's upset about. That way you can kind of engage with them from where they're coming from. If you're being standoffish, it's not going to be a good start to that conversation. So if they're mad about a call and don't personally attack you, leave it alone. They can be upset about which direction I'm pointing for a throw-in all night long. I don't care until they attack me as an official. Once they do that, then I've got to have a conversation with them. But if they're saying that's horrible, are you kidding me? I'm letting that go. They're upset with the call, they're not upset with me, they're not being disrespectful towards me. If they attack you or use profane language, you have to address this immediately. This isn't just our intramural program, this is an added emphasis across soccer at all levels. At the professional level, at the high school level, at the recreational level. This is what we're trying to take out of the game. You are horrible. Are you kidding me? Anything like that, you've got to address it. I'm addressing it with one of my cards in my pocket. The other thing you have to address, and address quickly because it will spiral very quickly, if they are baiting an opponent, that is not allowed. We do not let taunting, and they need to go. So, that's a red. If they're taunting, that's a red. We don't deal with any of that. So, I don't know who's trash talking like this, but Andy made the PowerPoint. So you can't guard this, you might as well sit on the bench. Well, you can't trash talk and now you can't play either, so bye. But see any of this, any baiting of their opponent, walking over an opponent on the field, we're not dealing with that. We are adults. Let's try to hopefully act like adults. Somebody in here will have a game where somebody's going to be completely out of control, and you'll get something like this, but fingers crossed, we go through the entire season without it.
So what about using profane language in general, just like they say cuss word at themselves?
I'm not bothering that. What Andy says, what I say is don't trouble. So they're mad at themselves.
Yeah.
Okay, he missed a shot by 20 yards. I'm not going to comment on his shooting ability, but I'm going to say, hey buddy, watch language for me. And I'm going to have that quiet word with him off to the side as he's running past me. It's really easy. When players miss a shot, a lot of times they circle out to the side of the field where you are already anyway, so they're already walking past you. You can just kind of walk with them, say, buddy, can you watch that language for me? And he'll say, oh yeah, sorry, I didn't mean it. It's as simple as that. When they're talking to other players, that's when you get into an issue. Yeah.
When it comes to, are you usually a red or a yellow?
Language is usually a yellow. Depending on how they use it. If they are being derogatory towards an opponent, being derogatory towards you, that's a red. We're not dealing with that. But usually if they just let a word slip because they're upset, they didn't mean it in any kind of offensive way, give them a yellow card, give them a second chance on that one. So steps in handling conflict, kind of what we just talked about. Your first step's a quiet word. You can diffuse a lot of situations with your participants by having a one-on-one conversation with them where you don't draw a lot of attention to them. It can be walking with them back up the field, just having a little chat with them. That can be enough to kind of get them off the path that they're on right there and diffuse it. If you have to go a little bit further, use the public warning. I like to put a hand down to the side, put two hands down to the side, tell them, that's enough, you need to stop. And I say it loud enough, I say it loud enough that everybody knows that he's on his last straw. That way, he can't go and say, I didn't know, because everybody on the field knows he knew. So, that's your public warning. Make it loud, make sure everybody knows. Captain's meeting. Do not use this as a crutch. We've used this as a crutch in the past, and we're going to try to get out of that. When you use this is early in the game. If you notice right from the kickoff, you got two teams. I'll use our Greek organizations. We love our Greek organizations, but sometimes they get really into their games, right? So you've got two fraternities, they're out there, they're playing hard, they want to win, championship night, and you notice right away that you've got two benches that are out of control and you got two teams that are out of control. You can stop that game, either in the middle of play or at the next stoppage you got, and pull those captains together and tell them, I need this to clean up right now, or I'm giving out cards. They'll clean their team up. Don't penalize the captain for then using choice language to clean his team up, because he's going to, but they'll clean their team up. Let the captains take care of your issues for you when you can. Now, if you get late in the game, don't pull the captains together because they're not cleaning that up. If you wait till the 35th minute of the game, 5 minutes left to go, and you're going to pull the captains together, they're not stopping at that point. That you got to go to your cards. Pause. Gonna get us really far.
Take it away.
All right, so then we go, your kind of last two steps, you got a yellow card. That's their formal warning. This is your last shot to clean it up. Sometimes you have to go straight to a yellow card. Sometimes you can use the steps above it. And then the last one, red card, ejection. They're done for the game. They've got to leave the complex. Your ejection is a last resort, but it doesn't mean it's not your first option. There are times where you'll go straight to your pocket for a red card. There's times you'll go straight to your yellow, and there's times you'll use one of the other steps. Once you start going yellows, try not to go back, because the team's going to be like, well, you gave my team a yellow, but then you gave them a talking to, and you gave him a talking to, and then we got another yellow. So try not to give yellows, or try not to stop giving yellows once you go back. Now, if one team is so egregiously out-fouling the other team, yes, they're getting yellows and they're getting talking tos until they've committed enough fouls where it's time for them to start giving them as well. But don't make threats. If you say one more word and you're gone, what's the player going to do? He's going to say word, and then you got to do something. You don't want to eject a player for saying word, because that is going to look bad in an ejection report. But you can't not eject him once you tell him not to. So try not to draw those lines in the sand, because lines in sand can be erased and backed up and redrawn. Danny. Yeah, apparently we haven't touched that in a while. So that's the last thing. Make sure you draw a line in concrete, not in sand. Once concrete dries, you're not moving that line. But sand, you can always erase and back up. So make sure your line is firm when you draw that. So we got some videos. Again, he missed. He yelled a word. He punched a goal. What do you think we're doing with him? Watch language. Quiet word. I might make this a public quiet word. He's not near me on the field if I'm this official down here, and he's walking away from me. I don't know what number he is. I'll say he's number 1. I'm going to say, 1, come over here. And then I'm going to talk to him quietly, but everybody's going to know he just got talked to. So that's one of those, you can kind of mix the steps there if you want to.